Cleantech encompasses a broad range of technologies related to recycling, renewable energy, information technology, green transportation, electric motors, etc. Where do you believe Canada is thriving the most, and in which areas do you see potential for Canada to adopt cleaner tech?
That's a good question. First of all, we have a lot of critical minerals that are key to making renewables and electric mobility. So I think that's where we could really strive. But we have to make sure that we don't just end up extracting those minerals and sending them elsewhere. So all the value-added products can be made, whether it's in the US or China, because right now, if you look at lithium, for instance, 99% of lithium being extracted from Canada goes to China directly. So it's a real issue. So I think we have a key opportunity. Actually, we have a historic opportunity to make sure that we develop a zero-emission vehicle supply chain and a renewable supply chain that can make Canada a global leader. We have missed some of these opportunities in the past, whether it's at the renewable level or the electric mobility level. Back in 2009, for instance, when we had the last financial crisis, what we saw was that the Obama administration supported GM and Chrysler and putting them back in business. Let's put it that way. But ensuring that they would do R&D on electric mobility, which is something that was not done in Canada. So we missed an opportunity there. If we miss this opportunity regarding electric mobility, so from motors to batteries to renewables, if we miss this opportunity this time, it's going to be the last call. I mean, everybody's working very hard to make sure that they don't stay as dependent and vulnerable towards the Chinese market as they are right now, the Chinese suppliers. So there's a geopolitical and economic issue here at play, and the timing is now. That's why we talk to the federal government, all of us. I'm sure that Robert has these conversations these days. When we look at the Build Back Better plan in the US, this is something that's preoccupying for our members. So there's a real opportunity because of the fact that we have critical minerals in Canada to develop good technologies. We have qualified workers. We have amazing research being done in the country. We have an automotive sector that's been there for decades and has a lot of experience. So everything's pretty much in a good position. We have to have a plan. We don't have a plan yet. So that's why us at EMC want work collaboratively with Robert and Matthew and others to make sure that we do have a plan to secure quality jobs for Canadians all across the country.
Yeah, Mary, if I can just. Oh, go ahead, Matthew.
Yeah, well, just briefly. I mean, I completely agree with that, and I think that if the question is where are we thriving now in Canada, I mean, clearly we've got clean energy, and that's been discussed. Ontario, Quebec, BC in particular, and we've got the opportunity to develop more of that. Particularly, Alberta is doing a lot of great work there. I mean, I think it's probably an underreported story to some extent, right? But what I think needs to happen also is a policy culture, a government culture that fosters more companies that do the higher value work, right? And so that encourages through various levers of policy companies to be founded here, to take advantage of those critical minerals that Daniel's talking about, and not only be founded, but to grow and to thrive here and to employ Canadians, right? I think that, and there are some great examples. We have them on this call, but we need that times 1,000, and that I think is really where Canada needs to be putting its thoughts towards. We don't have a history of that in Canada, right? We have some really smart companies that have grown up in various sectors. Some of them are still around. A lot of them get sold off. We want to make sure that, to Daniel's point too, that this is an opportunity to actually grow an ecosystem of corporate success in a clean tech environment.
Yeah, I'd echo those comments. I think as Daniel mentioned, you don't get too many opportunities, and if you lose them, if you miss them, you won't get another shot. I mean, this is an emerging industry, but it's emerging very quickly. A couple things I've noticed is Canada excels at research and development in this industry. You know, there's Electrovaya, we're a good example. There's Hydrogenics, a bunch of other names we can roll off. But when it comes to fostering the domestic demand, this is where it really, I'll give you an example, is on electric buses. In the US, there's a 75% requirement for domestic content in any federally funded electric bus procurement. Canada has a very substantial electric bus procurement plan, but there's no significant Canadian content requirement. So the batteries for those buses, are really it's easier to use Chinese systems for that rather than Canadian built. While in the US, there's a strong incentive for that domestic content there, so that will get built. And once that gets built, it becomes available for other industries, trucks, but other non-subsidized vehicles, and it gives them a head start. So this is an opportunity that we seem to have missed, and hopefully we don't miss other ones.
I'll just add two quick thoughts. One is that, as everybody has said, now's the time. I mean, Canada's not alone. All countries are looking to capitalize on this economic opportunity. Yeah. And all the players who are involved, or a lot of the finance that's involved, is free to go anywhere. And at the end of the day, Canada has to recognize that it's actually competing for this investment and competing for these opportunities. And if we don't provide an environment that's actually conducive to that investment's going to very happily go somewhere else. And so we need to be very thoughtful about that. The other thing I was going to say is that we're looking at a pretty fundamental transformation in energy systems. And it's not just an issue of new technologies, like whether it's wind and solar or electric vehicles. It's also all of the technology that's going to be needed to facilitate the integration of those technologies going forward. So it's a hardware, it's a software kind of issue. It's a system that we're changing. And you know, Canada on the renewable side has a big advantage. We have 80% of our electricity is already non-emitting, which means we don't have to focus, you know, pay the same amount of investment and attention on decarbonizing the grid as some other countries are, which gives us the potential to be a leader in thinking about how we integrate that decarbonized electricity, how we integrate distributed energy resources like solar panels on a roof or an EV in the driveway with the rest of the electricity system. And there's a tremendous opportunity there because the world is moving in this direction. And we have the opportunity to be a leader if we decide to pursue it.
Yeah. I also think that there's a couple of other areas where, you know, we've traditionally been strong. I think a lot of times when we look at clean tech, we look at, you know, what's kind of new and emerging and how can Canada be a player. And sometimes we don't look at, you know, where we've been. So, you know, for the last, I would say 30, 40 years, Southern Ontario in particular has been a leader in water treatment technologies. You know, it's water filtration, water conservation. Maybe it's because of our proximity to the Great Lakes, I don't know, but you know, we are a world leader in water technology. And you know, as we move into, you know, a world where we're looking at, you know, conserving resources generally, you know, I think water is going to be a huge issue, and that's an area where we can be a global player, and you know, we can be a real leader because of our traditional investment in those areas. I think nuclear is another one where, you know, we've been strong globally. And I think nuclear has got to be part of the solution going forward. I think we're going to get into some issues about, you know, where electricity is going to come from. But Canada, particularly here in Ontario, huge strength in the nuclear industry. And then the other one that I see as a big opportunity is biomass. You know, we've got a lot of it. There's certain parts of the country, particularly, you know, in Quebec, you know, they've done some great work around biomass. But if you look at Scandinavian countries, you know, they're using that resource. Some of these are controversial, and you know, there's lots of work to be done. But I think we should also look at, you know, where our strengths are from a resource point of view and from an existing investment point of view, we've got a lot of a huge foundation to build from.
And I think we should talk about green hydrogen for industry as well, which can be produced through renewable energy, which could make one hell of a difference for ships and plants. And so that to me is a key area where Canada has a lot of experience. In transportation, it's more battery electric, but for industry and then ships and planes, I think there's a business case there for hydrogen. And the government of Canada, has published last year, almost a year to the day, its its hydrogen strategy for Canada. Now we are working and trying to convince the federal government to come up with an electric mobility strategy for Canada, including a ZEV supply chain, and working in collaboration with Canada, because we think that there's a great opportunity there. And let's be frank here. When we look at the data regarding climate change, I mean, the federal government has announced in the spring of 2021 that we wanted to reach -40 to -45 degrees in GNG emissions compared to our 2005 level. But between 2005 and 2019, we have decreased our GHG emissions by 1%, which means that in the 11 years between 2019 and 2030, we have to decrease it by another 39 to 44%, which is no small feat, to say the least. So we really do have to accelerate, no pun intended, Matt. We do have to accelerate, go a lot quicker than we are going right now regarding clean technology, renewable energy, electric mobility. We are not the leaders. Well, we are the leaders because the Canadian fleet of light-duty vehicles is the one who emits the most GHG emissions per kilometer driven. We are the leaders for that, but we want to be the leaders in the right way.